Welcome back into Foolish Club Media. I am Steven Serda, joined by my guy Rocky Magaña. Rocky, the Chiefs lost in their preseason finale. It's a 29-27 loss as the Chicago Bears and Tyson Bagent score right at the very end of the game to put them up. But overall, Rocky, I don't think any of us give a damn about the result of this preseason game. We got a lot to talk about on tonight's show, and I'm very excited to break down the Kansas City Chiefs performance with you because this is everything that we've been talking about training camp and preseason and everything leading up to this game, leading up to the season debut 2 weeks from now in Brazil against the Los Angeles Chargers. We finally got a glimpse of what this team's actually going to look like in 2025, because prior to tonight's game, we had not seen for a single solitary second of the preseason what this team is actually going to look like when they take the regular season football field. And we finally got a glimpse of it tonight. And Rocky, it was pretty glorious. Like it was everything that we hoped it could be. And I know it's the preseason, but damn, they were fun tonight when the players that really mattered were on the field for the Kansas City Chiefs.
They were a lot of fun tonight, man. Like it's just like when the guys that matter were on the field. If Mahomes would have played this whole game, let's be honest, the Chiefs scored 50 points the way that they were playing in the first half. The Bears weren't stopping the Chiefs tonight. There was a couple, and the most important thing happened that we needed to happen more than anything is we got out of there healthy, right? Like everybody's healthy. There was a couple moments where you held your breath. When Mahomes decided to scramble in the preseason and you were like, bro, just go down. And then also when Isaiah Pacheco trips on the sideline and just decides to go head first, just straight into a wall at full speed. Like those are the moments where you're like, like you held your breath a little bit. But this game was awesome because not only did you get to go out there and see the guys who you wanted to see perform well, Mahomes, Kelsey, Worthy, go out there and make a couple plays. It was awesome because you also had some question marks, right? Like we'll get into all this, but Fulton, Kingsley, Tyquan Thornton, even like in the game, like there was like Gelati's pass, like Gelati. Like there was a lot of like question marks in this game coming into this where we were like, okay, we kind of want to see something out of these guys, or we want to kind of see that they can do it, like put it all together. And there was like multiple guys who came out and performed extremely well, who you wanted to see perform well in this situation.
Okay, now I'm forgetting to unmute myself.
Preseason form. We're in preseason form.
Yeah. Thankfully, this is our last rehearsal before the regular season. We'll get it together in week 1 in a couple of weeks. We'll be locked in for Brazil, I promise. But also, like this training camp has been kind of a grind, Rocky. Like it's been a long time. Like I think some of this is the losing the Super Bowl to the Philadelphia Eagles, kind of like this hangover of like having that type of loss hanging over you all off season. And then, the NFL draft, we're all excited about these young players and seeing them. And it just feels like this training camp has been a slog. This preseason has seemingly taken forever. And we're finally through it. We're finally on to the regular season. And as we talked about in the previous 2 preseason games, like I mentioned it week 1 when I was flying solo, and I mentioned it last week when me and you talked about their game against the Seahawks. Like we hadn't gotten a legitimate look at anything the Chiefs were interested in doing in the regular season until tonight. And they still didn't do anything crazy, but man, they just looked dangerous. Like they just looked fun. They just look like they have options on the offensive side of the ball. The offensive line was competent. And I'm still very confident in what the defense can bring to the table, even though I know some people are raising the red flags about the defensive line right now. Um, I still don't think we've seen exactly what the defense is going to totally be in 2025. But I do want to start on the offensive side of the ball because what we saw tonight, Rocky, was something we haven't seen from this team in a long time. And we're not ones to overreact to preseason. We're the ones that are usually just telling everybody to chill out. And hey, it's a preseason. Don't read into things too much. Don't make rash decisions based off of what you're seeing on in these football games, because a lot of it really, really doesn't matter. And we go through this every year where we're just excited for football and then we overhype things. And then that stuff never manifests in the regular season when we get to the games that actually count. And the reason this stuff really mattered tonight, and I think the reason that the Chiefs came back out for that third series with their starters on the offensive side of the ball, like if Kareem Hunt catches that touchdown pass from Patrick Mahomes and they go up 14-0, I don't think we see him again, but he drops it and they wind up going up 10-0. But Mahomes was great on that drive. Mahomes was doing everything that you need to see Patrick Mahomes do. And then he gets another look on the third drive and they go back down, they score another touchdown. But for the first time in a long time, and we thought this was the case going into last year, Rocky, like, remember, like we thought, oh, Hollywood Brown, Rashee Rice, Xavier Worthy, and Isaiah Pacheco, and all of that evaporated so quickly on in the regular season, and Hollywood Brown just being lost for essentially the season in the preseason. Like, none of it ever really manifested. And so we're basically now heading into our second season of this, and we're finally getting a glimpse of it. And it's not even Hollywood Brown who is manifesting this for the Chiefs on the offensive side of the ball. It's Tyquan Thornton, who looks like he's going to be a legitimate difference maker for the Kansas City Chiefs. And then you factor in the fact that Worthy had a couple of nice plays tonight. He had a first down, short catch that went for a first down where he dodged a couple of guys, broke some tackles, and made a play. Rashee Rice looked quick in the opportunity that he got, picked up a big first down. Like, Rashee Rice looks like the exact same player that we saw last season prior to injury. That's really encouraging. Travis Kelce looks faster. Like, and I've been thinking about this too on Kelce, Rocky. Like, I know everybody's like, man, he's old. And man, we hear this all the time. Like, these guys, oh, they lose weight and they get in better shape. And they say like, oh, we're going to give it one more run and give it everything I have and see if they can actually do it. And maybe he can't do it for a full 17-game regular season. But man, if I'm going to bet on anybody to put together like a shocking season at the age that he's at, I'm going to bet on Travis Kelce. And it was just really, really cool for the Chiefs to save this for their only home preseason game. And it was really, really cool for us to get a glimpse of what we all think this offense can be and what we hoped it would be last season until the offensive line fell apart, until all the injuries stacked up. But man, it looks different this year. Like, the glimpse that we got tonight looks different than anything we've seen from this offense in several years now.
I mean, it looked to me like the ghost of Marquez Valdez-Scantling has finally been exorcised out of Patrick Mahomes' deep ball once and for all, which was great because he was going vertical and the Chiefs were
hit him
going
in stride.
Hit him in stride. He hit him in stride, but even like when he went downfield to Kelce too, the Chiefs were just going more vertical than we've seen them go the last couple of years. And I think a lot of it has to do with the overall speed of this wide receiving core is just faster than anything they've had. You know, you got Hollywood Brown is the third fastest wide receiver on the field, you know, for them. Like, you know, behind, he's slower than Tyquan Thornton and Xavier Worthy. And we have both those guys. It's not that they're just running deep, but when they run across the field, they're just creating space for Travis Kelce to work in underneath or working across the middle. And if you watch their routes today, the thing that was most impressive, yes, they were going vertical. Yes, they were getting chunk plays, but it was also because their route spacing is so on point. It's so surgical. Nobody's running too deep, too shallow. Like Mahomes is such like a stickler about those sort of things. And Andy Reid is too, that the spacing was just perfect to where everybody had their areas to work in order to get open. And then all Mahomes had to do was deal and stay alive. And by golly, you gotta love Trey Smith playing like the Super Bowls on the line, protecting Patrick Mahomes back there and just destroying people. And they are just having fun back there being a bully. And I tell you what, like I was skeptical of Isaiah Pacheco coming into this game and coming into this season.
Yeah.
But his juice looks like his back. Like he was running hard, but he's last week on that one catch he had, and then in his couple of runs he had today, like he looks faster than he did at the end of last season when he was just coming back from his injury. Like he looks fully healed. And so, I mean, the offense, like the offense looks like a championship caliber offense if they can put this together in the regular season. Now, like we said, it is the preseason. Like, who knows that the Bears were jet lagged trying, yada, yada, yada. They're kind of banged up also.
Yeah. And this Bears defense is really talented. So, like, I saw some people being like, oh, are the Bears one of the worst teams in the league or something? Like, I think they're certainly far from that. And I think Ben Johnson's going to do a lot of really, really good things with Caleb Williams. Like, I'm really excited to see what that team can do. They're a very young team. And I think in part, Caleb Williams played the entire first half because Ben Johnson was like, he needs reps, and he needs reps against a team that's gonna give him problems, because the Chiefs are a team like if you ever want to be great, the Kansas City Chiefs are the type of team that you have to go up against and compete with. And so I think there was something to like Caleb Williams playing that much against the Kansas City Chiefs in Kansas City in his preseason finale before we get to the regular season. But you mentioned the spacing, and like you mentioned like the precision of the offense. And that's something that like we don't talk enough about. And it's something that like I know we've discussed it, but it's something that gets dramatically overlooked, especially like all these national media people that are discounting the Kansas City Chiefs that aren't watching every single snap of every single game like me and you do on a weekly basis. And it's something that gets overlooked, is that like they just haven't had guys in a while where like everybody can't be Travis Kelce. Like everybody can't read the defense and say, hey, if I do this, it's going to be open. Or if I do this, like read the alignments and have that like football IQ to diagnose that stuff like on the field in real time. And also it's like an execution thing. And it's something that like Sky Moore, like you simply could not rely on Sky Moore to execute all of the time. You simply could not rely on McCole Hardman, MVS. Like you simply could not rely on these guys to execute every single time. And that's what was so impressive about this thing with the 3 series that we got from the first team offense tonight. It was just so clean. Like it was just so everybody's doing what they need to do. Everybody's making the right decision. Like, and Rashee Rice and Xavier Worthy are drawing enough attention that, oh, Travis Kelce will option route to the left hash mark, and he's wide open and picks up a big chunk gain. And Kelce's, doing his little shimmy stutter step because he's not drawing the attention that he was drawing last season when he didn't have to worry about anybody else once Rashee Rice went down. Like, that's what's so encouraging about this, Rocky, is that they just simply haven't had this many options in a while. And you factor in to this untapped potential of Tyquan Thornton that we've seen in this preseason. And then, I mean, hell, if Hollywood Brown's healthy week 1 and he's anything close to the caliber of player that we believe he can be for this offense, then you mix in Tyquan Thornton with this, like they got speed again. They got real speed again. Like this could be a high flying offense again in 2025. And it's the first time in years that I'm actually like confident about that, Rocky.
Well, it's because unlike guys like Nicole Hardman, for instance, who have great just straight line speed or other just like deep threats, they have speed that also are proficient route runners, right? Like Xavier Worthy has turned into a really good route runner. Hollywood Brown has always been a good route runner. Rashee Rice is a good route runner. Tyquan Thornton has gotten better, right? They have guys who are just who take their craft seriously and who have the ability to put their foot in the ground and cut on a dime and get open and have great release packages off the line, as opposed to a guy like McCole Hardman who's just he's got to try to run off the line, do a skip step, and then go upfield. And it's not hard for a defensive back to cover that most of the time. And so I just think that the overall talent level in this receiving core is higher than what we've seen in a while. Even when the Chiefs had Sammy Watkins, right, and Tyreek Hill at wide receiver, they still had a bunch of like Demarcus Robinson, Byron Pringle-ish type guys. And we've been sitting here talking about these wide receivers, and we haven't even mentioned Juju Smith-Schuster, who is an awesome slot receiver still, who's super great. And so, I mean,
Had an awesome catch on the first drive.
Yeah.
Kept the drive alive.
Yeah, and like he just he just goes out there and just does his job, and he's awesome. And so the fact that they were talking about a guy like Nico Remigio, who all he does is catch everything thrown his way and just do his job, right? We're talking about a guy like that is maybe on the bubble, but he's not, because he's a kick returner and he's gonna make this roster. But you're like sitting there thinking about it. You're like, okay, so like maybe Nico Remigio and like Byron Pringle are on the same level, but we had Byron Pringle as our number 3 wide receiver.
Yeah,
Nico Remigio is like number 6
for a season.
Yeah,
for a season. For a Super Bowl appearance season.
Yeah, and so Remigio is like number 6, right? So it's like
I want to talk about I want to talk about the offensive line and the position groups and the battles and stuff, and I want to get into the defense because I think there's some really encouraging things from the defense tonight too. But before we move off the wide receiver room, it's the reason it was so easy to trade Sky Moore, and I'm not going to hate on Sky Moore. Things just don't work out in the NFL all the time. And I hope that he finds a way to make something of his NFL career in San Francisco. And, if he doesn't, hell, man, a lot of guys play in football and they don't ever win Super Bowl rings. So cherish those 2 rings, cherish the experience.
Got a touchdown in a Super Bowl.
Yeah, that you got drafted into, and you caught a touchdown in a Super Bowl. So that's pretty impressive. That a thing that most people will never ever get to experience. But the reason it was so easy to trade him is because, and Jalen Royals didn't even play tonight, and Jalen Royals has looked really promising in the preseason, Rocky. And so now it's like, I think Nico Remigio is making this team. It was questionable before with Sky Moore still on the roster. I think now he's guaranteed a roster spot, and he looked really good tonight too. Tyquan Thornton doesn't just look like, oh, he's making the team and he's like a reserve wide receiver for the Chiefs. Tyquan Thornton is going to matter at points this season. Tyquan Thornton's going to have some big moments for the Chiefs, and it legitimately looks like they hit it big by bringing him in. There's legitimate untapped potential there with him as a player, and Andy Reid's going to unlock that with Patrick Mahomes. And then Juju's going to be old reliable when he's in there playing, his handful of snaps a night. And then I think Rashee Rice is legitimately a top 5 to 10 wide receiver in the NFL when he is not suspended and when he is on the field for the offense. And then I think Xavier Worthy somehow at this point has become kind of an underrated number 2 wide receiver, because he's been relegated to this he's just a deep threat kind of role. And I think Xavier Worthy is a lot more than that, Rocky. I think Xavier Worthy has a lot more potential than that as a player. And then that's before you even talk about Travis Kelce and Noah Gray and Jared Wiley and like what that tight end room is bringing to the table. So this wide receiver room is just really exciting. Like, I think if you wind up getting really banged up at some point and you're like down on bodies, like I think Nico Remigio is a guy that could make a play here and there. Like Nico Remigio is going to be on this team now, and it just speaks volumes to where like we've been chasing a competent wide receiver room for this team for years now, and we finally have it, and we finally have it where like the San Francisco 49ers were willing to swap a draft pick for Sky Moore because their wide receiver room's so thin. And the Chiefs legitimately have 5 to 6 guys that you'd be okay with starting on Sundays in the NFL this upcoming season.
Yeah, 100% do. And with Tyquan Thornton, like, yeah, he's not just going to be like a roster filler. Like, if you're catching targets from Patrick Mahomes in the preseason, you're on this roster and you're part of the game plan. Because if you're catching, like if you're one of like 10 passes that Mahomes gets to throw on the day, and or 2 of them are going your direction, then the Chiefs have plans for you and you're on this team. Like, that's just is what it is, right? Otherwise, you wouldn't be on the field. Magdalena, God bless him, is not out there catching passes from Patrick Mahomes. You know, Elijah Badger wasn't out there catching passes from Patrick Mahomes. And so, yeah, this receiving core is as deep as I've seen it. You know, I agree with you that when he's there, Rashee Rice is a top 10 wide receiver in the league. And it's kind of one of those things is I always thought that Xavier Worthy's upside, like his ceiling, was Devonta Smith, and I feel like he's kind of coming into his own of like that Devonta Smith style of player a little bit. He still has a little bit of ways to go, but I think that like that's the dream for Xavier Worthy.
And everybody last year, it kind of drove me crazy because the easy comp for him was like Deshaun Jackson because he's a small wide receiver and he's really, really fast. And so everybody was making that comparison, but like Deshaun Jackson wasn't a jump ball wide receiver. Like Xavier Worthy can get up. Like Xavier Worthy's got some athletic traits. Like he can go get the football in a way that a player like Deshaun Jackson never ever did. Brandon Kiley kind of compared him to T.Y. Hilton. I thought that was a better comparison than Deshaun Jackson was because T.Y. Hilton showed some of that athletic ability. I don't even think he had the level of athleticism that Xavier Worthy's bringing to the table, but I thought that was a more serviceable comparison than just calling him Deshaun Jackson because he's small and fast. But no, it's just really, really exciting. And before we move to the offensive line, I want to talk about this running back room because I'm willing to be, and I've been saying this all along, like I was willing to be totally wrong on Brashard Smith and that maybe I was reading way too much into preseason deployment. And that certainly appeared to be the case tonight, Rocky. Brashard Smith was getting run with the first team offense. And it wasn't as like he was coming out of the backfield, but he was in there strictly as we are deploying you as a pass catcher out of the backfield type of role. And his first pass from Patrick Mahomes, should have caught it. Maybe Mahomes let him a little bit too much, but that's a ball you got to hang on to. But like you see the potential. And then he comes back and in true Andy Reid fashion, he goes right back to him. And Brashard Smith makes the play. And then he got some reps later on in the game too. But like it was really good to see him out there and see him like in this, hey, when he's in the game, this is his specific type of role. And then we saw Pacheco look solid tonight. We saw Kareem Hunt running hard. Like those guys have totally established their roles. And so I'm happy that I was wrong based on our early preseason looks from Brashard Smith, because this is what I wanted to see from him. I don't think Brashard Smith is going to be getting a lot of handoffs in this offense, but that's specifically what he can do as a converted wide receiver to running back. And that's how the Chiefs should deploy him. And so I want to see more of that. And hopefully we do see that in the regular season. But like this running back room though tonight, it did kind of confirm like everything else that we had already talked about. Like I think Elijah Mitchell's probably not going to make this team. At the very least, he's like very bottom of the roster type of player. And then Carson Steele, after just getting tons of run in the first 2 preseason games, was in the game until the fourth quarter tonight. And so it's pretty clear that Carson Steele is just not going to make this team now.
Yeah, I don't think Carson Steele's making this team. And yeah, I think with Brashard Smith, but at the same time, we kind of saw with him what we've kind of said all along, though, right? He's a running back on the roster, but he's really a slot receiver that comes out of the backfield, right? He's your DeAnthony Thomas, Dexter McCluster, those type of guys, and maybe has a little bit better hands than some of those guys did. But he's not going to be taking handoffs in this offense, and so he did look good, and you did like to see that after he had that drop, he came right back and made a much more difficult catch, right, when Andy Reid went right back to him. That was a really nice play, honestly, in traffic. And so, I mean, you got Pacheco as your lead back, you got Hunt as your short yardage guy, and then you got Brashard Smith as your change of pace, right? I don't think that there's room on this. If you're going to keep 7 wide receivers, there's not room on this roster for running backs, honestly. If you start doing the numbers, especially when you consider Brandon George has to make this roster.
They're keeping 4 tight ends too.
Yeah, they're keeping 4 tight ends.
Keeping 4 tight ends.
Yeah, Wiley looked really good today. Also, that's another person we haven't really mentioned. Wiley looked really nice in the targets he had. He made some nice plays.
I think Wiley's had a nice preseason, quietly. Everybody's been talking about Robert Tonyan, and I think Wiley's had a nice preseason too, coming back from an ACL tear.
Yeah, no, 100%. Considering the injury that he's coming back from, he's looked great, honestly. And today we kind of saw them kind of run the offense through him for that one drive. He had multiple targets in a row. Yeah, I mean, Brett Veach has some tough decisions to make because there's going to be some talented guys who don't make this roster, or some guys some names who you might expect to make this roster. When we get over to the offensive line, I think there's a lot of question marks really with the offensive line on as far as outside of the top 5, on some backup guys, and what direction they're going to go with some of the offensive line guys.
So let's talk about the offensive line before we move over to the defense. So man, the offensive line was good. They were good tonight. Kingsley looked much better. It seemed like when he knew the franchise was out there, when he knew Patrick Mahomes is who he was blocking for, Kingsley stepped up and he looked really good against a solid Bears front. And then, Josh Simmons continues to just look like, holy hell, the Chiefs finally figured it out. And then Juwan Taylor gets the run, and Jalen Moore was clearly the second string right tackle. So it's pretty clear the Chiefs have a rotation that they want. Trey Smith was playing out of his mind. Mahomes had protection. He had time. He had time to survey the field. And then when guys weren't getting open, Mahomes was using his legs to buy time and creating. And that was something that they were missing all last season because Mahomes simply didn't have the time to even survey the field half the time. And that's a game changer in and of itself, Rocky, because even if the wide receivers don't wind up being as good as we all believe they're going to be, just giving Patrick Mahomes time is going to be a game changer. And he had time tonight. And I'm just so excited now. We just couldn't have asked for more from the first team offensive line, in my opinion, in the 3 full series that they played tonight.
No, I agree. Kingsley looked the best that he's ever looked in a Chiefs uniform. And that's a low bar to clear. Let's be honest about that. But he looked like a legitimate, serviceable left guard in this league. And it's crazy that Juwan Taylor looks a lot better when Trey Smith is playing out of his mind and blows a guy up and then is able to still turn and then help him out and help double team Juwan Taylor's guy for him. Yeah. I mean, Mahomes' pocket was clean pretty much the entire time he was in there. And when it wasn't, he had lanes to escape. I thought that, Josh Simmons he's a dude. Like I'm saying it now. It's preseason, don't overreact. But he's a dude. The guy just all he does is block and keep Mahomes upright. And so I mean the 5 starting offensive linemen, like we'll see. Hopefully Kingsley and Taylor hold up over the course of a year. But if they can play over an entire 17-game schedule like they played tonight, then the Chiefs are sitting pretty as far as offensive line goes.
From our guy Philip, he says week 2 will be the test. Like, yeah, of course, against the defending Super Bowl champions. Like, we know that. But I think what's really encouraging is that they got 5 set. And if that's getting dismantled in week 2 by the Philadelphia Eagles, then I think we feel okay about Jalen Moore stepping in and playing guard or tackle if that's the case. And the real question is, like you mentioned, is after that is like, is there really any depth after that? Like, do we feel good about any of these guys after them? Which is no, not really. But also, like, I've seen a lot of people talk about that, and it's like, how is that really different than any other year, though? like usually you just want to have 5 good ones, and if you got 6 or 7 solid ones, and you're like, okay, we're working now. And it seems like the Chiefs have 6 good ones, and maybe it's only 5 good ones, and maybe Kingsley's like questionable, but they got 6 serviceable guys, I think. And not many teams in the NFL can probably say that they legitimately have 6 serviceable guys at the very least. And then we can start like talking about like semantics of like legitimate upside of like what your top 5 offensive linemen look like. But at the very least, they looked great tonight. They looked encouraging against a very good defense. A young Chicago Bears team, but again, like that defense was really, really good last season. So I'm very happy with how they performed tonight. And then as far as the defense goes, I think the defense looked solid for the most part. The starters out there. So I was when the game started, because we talked about it earlier in the week, Rocky, like Christian Fulton was on the injury report. So it was like, are we going to see him? And then he doesn't get the start, which, okay, fine. That's no worries, but it was like, is he going to play or is he just not getting reps in the preseason? And then thankfully, once the starters leave, Christian Fulton comes in with the second team. And this is, again, shout out to our guy, Jared Sapp at Arrowhead Pride. This is exactly what they did with Jalen Watson last year. Like Christian Fulton played late into the game, and it was strictly because Christian Fulton has not gotten a lot of reps. Like this isn't saying anything about Christian Fulton as a player and what his actual role is going to be on this defense and in this secondary. This was strictly, hey, get him out there and let him hit some people and let him get some reps and let him function within this Steve Spagnuolo secondary, because he just hasn't had the opportunities because he missed most of training camp. And it was up and down from Christian Fulton, but he looks like what you need from him. And so we still haven't gotten, in my opinion, like a full look at like what this secondary is going to inevitably be this season. But overall, the first team defense was promising. And I know we're worried about the defensive line depth and hoping that they get that figured out and hoping that the pass rush, bounces back and looks good. But Chris Jones had his moments. Charles Omenihu cleaned up a sack where Chris Jones basically blew up the entire play. Like George had a moment. Like Trent McDuffie is going to be Trent McDuffie. Brian Cook broke up a pass in the end zone. Like Jaden Hicks looked great again. And I think like the idea that like Jaden Hicks isn't the Chiefs starting safety, I think is getting more and more ridiculous by the day, because Jaden Hicks, he's looked great this preseason, but he's a young player that just needed reps and he just got a ton of them. And I think those are really important for him. So like overall, like as we turn our attention towards 2 weeks from now in Brazil, Kansas City Chiefs, Los Angeles Chargers, opening game of the regular season, I'm feeling really good about the offense and defense as we like actually turn our attention towards the regular season.
I thought Christian Fulton played awesome. Sans that one pass interference called that he had the guy, like he didn't even have to commit PI. I almost felt like he did on accident. But other than that, I thought he looked really, really good in coverage. He looked physical. He looked physical at the line of scrimmage. He was in on every single play. He was, flowing to the ball. He was, I mean, I thought we moved really well. He didn't look like he was injured or coming back from injury. I thought I took tonight's game as like a really good bright spot for the Christian Fulton situation. I feel light years better about Christian Fulton now than I did heading into the game. And then the only way that Jaden Hicks is not the starting safety is if they stop calling whatever his position is and what Justin Reed's position was last year. They stop calling it safety and they rename it something like Falcon back or or ball hawk or something like that, because they're just going to move him all over the field wherever he's needed. He's going to blitz. He's going to be in run defense. He's going to play the slide. He's going to play deep. He's just going to do absolutely everything, just like they did with Justin Reed last year. And so they're going to move him all over the place, especially when you consider that Jamari Connor did not have the best game tonight. That was the one thing, is he had that really bad missed tackle where he got hurdled by DeAndre Swift. Yeah. And he just keeps his head up and just doesn't dive there and just drives through him. There's no way he gets made to look like a fool like that.
Just drive him out of bounds. You don't need to go that hard. Yeah.
Yeah, you don't need to leave your feet, right? Like that's the whole thing. It's like, just don't leave your feet. Like Travis Kelce should have been and Derwin James a couple years back should have been like the lesson for everybody. If you're not Saquon Barkley, don't leave your feet, because it's not going to end well for you. But yeah, I felt like overall though the secondary looked good, right? Like, there were some really good bright spots and some nice play out of the secondary, especially when the first team defense was in there. I know people are panicking about the pass rush, but just give it time. Like, honestly, like Chris Jones was awesome. Chris Jones looked great. Chris Jones looked like Chris Jones. George Karlaftis had some good penetration. He was in the backfield. He was causing havoc like we're used to. And then Ashton Gelati was great. I thought Ashton Gelati was awesome. He had that play where he got the roughing the passer penalty and then he got pissed off and just blew up like the next 3 plays in a row. And when you saw him, like, you saw the power is legit. Like, he gets off of blocks and he's able to manhandle guys. Like, Dave Tobe called him an animal this week. That's a good nickname for him, because the guy has like brute animal strength to him. Like, he's a strong dude.
It was a really encouraging game for Ashton Gelati. Because he showed just exactly that. Like, it's effort, but it's not just like effort. It's like speed and athleticism. And I'm not saying he's ever going to turn into like, the most athletic pass rusher in the NFL. But if that guy can be a serviceable player for them, it's a huge win for the Kansas City Chiefs. And what he showed tonight was a lot of what we were hearing all through training camp that we haven't necessarily seen so far in the preseason. He's had a couple of moments here and there, but it's been kind of quiet. And then, it would have been nice to get another look at Omar Norman-Lott, but they just got to get him healthy and see what he kind of develops into. But and Brett Veach also said during the game that the Chiefs might be looking to like roll over cap space to next year, which also makes me question, like, oh, so that Trent McDuffie deal's not getting done before week 1 then. Huh? Which is fine. I don't think we need to worry about that. It would have been nice to get it all done this offseason, but it's okay. I think Trent McDuffie's fine with it not getting done this year and going out and having another all-pro season and coming back next year and being like, okay, now I want to be the highest paid cornerback in football, which is okay. I still don't think that means that the Chiefs aren't going to look at the veteran pass rush market. I think there's an opportunity there with Felix going to IR. But I'm not like overly concerned about the defensive line. Like, unless we start this regular season, Rocky, and it looks like Chris Jones has taken like a dramatic step back, like, the Chiefs have enough talented players on the defensive line that if Chris Jones is Chris Jones, those guys are going to find opportunities to get to the quarterback because Chris Jones is going to draw so much attention from everyone else. So I think the defensive line is going to be fine. At the end of the day, you just don't want them to have to generate pressure strictly off of Steve Spagnuolo's blitzes because then it nullifies the ability of those blitzes when he can dial them up at opportune moments in the game. And so you just have to be able to generate pressure up front. And I think that the Chiefs have talented enough players along the defensive line that they're going to be able to do that. Maybe they're not going to be what the Eagles were last season, but I think they're talented enough. They can generate pressure up front and help everybody out. And I think the secondary being better this season is also going to help the defensive line quite a bit.
Well, the Chiefs got pressure in the first half, like more than like 2 or 3 times on 4-man rushes, right? Like they were just able to beat their matchups and get into the backfield and cause Caleb Williams some issues, right? You know, so
yeah.
I'm not overly concerned about it. Now, like, yeah, 100%. I would hope that they are in the veteran pass rusher market, just because you can never have too many pass rushers. That's what that's the 100%. Lesson the Eagles taught the NFL last year is like, it doesn't matter if guys are old, if they're good pass rushers, just use them as situational pass rushers and just pepper the opposing offense with them and just relentlessly go after their quarterback. Right. And so I would like to see the Chiefs, be in the market for another guy. Jerry Tillery looked like Jerry Tillery out there tonight. I mean, like,
Jerry Tillery's not making this.
Yeah, Jerry Tillery's not making this team, which is an issue when you consider that then it's gonna be Pennell and Jones.
Yeah.
And then who? Lovett?
Yeah. I mean, I think they're gonna I think the Chiefs are gonna be very active in the cut market, like other players that get cut, or like, I think they're going to be very active in trying to find another body here and there to once they cut down to their initial 53. I think the Chiefs are going to be active in trying to make some moves there.
Because I mean, that's the thing, is because if Tillery doesn't make this team, then okay, you have Jones on the interior, but then if you only have Jones and Pennell as your 2 competent defensive tackles, then that pins Jones as an interior pass rusher for the entire season, right? And like, one of the things that makes Jones so dynamic is that he gets to basically choose where he wants to rush from on that line.
Well, and Amenahu and Dana can slide in a little bit, but obviously you don't want them playing a ton of snaps there. Like it's a situational thing when you want to move those guys around like that, and then. We'll see if they can get Omar Norman-Lott healthy and continue to develop him. But yeah, I think we would like one other body for that interior defensive line. I think we would all feel good about that. We've seen a lot of trades this week too across the NFL. We've seen some defensive linemen get moved around as teams are doing just exactly that. They're like, oh, we got a bunch of like small guys that can kind of come off the edge, but we don't have anybody that can clog up the middle. And yeah, it's a concern for the Chiefs, but I don't think it's something that I'm like overwhelmingly concerned about. Like, I think I would imagine when roster cutdowns happen, we're going to see them take a look at some guys who wind up not making teams somewhere and see if they can find a guy who could fill that role for them. So, but I think it was a good preseason, very encouraging preseason finale for the Kansas City Chiefs. It's the most fun I've had watching a preseason game in a while, Rocky. But any other like final takeaways from the preseason before we get out of here and we move onward to the 2025 regular season?
This was the Chiefs' vanilla offense in the first half, and it looked fun. So all this talk about the Chiefs being a boring team that's not fun to watch, like,
wait till they start using motion.
Yeah, wait till they actually start like using plays that they have that they haven't had, in the recycling bin for 10 years, right? And so like it's going to be a fun season, Steven. The Chiefs look like it's preseason, I know, but the Chiefs are legit contenders always, and the Chiefs look like they're going to be back in the mix again this year.
Yeah. So Everybody that discounted them, don't watch the Chiefs offense first 3 drives tonight because you'll immediately be like, hell, what did I do? So, a lot of fun. Thank you guys for hanging out with us. As always, please make sure you subscribe, rate, and review everything that we're doing right here on Foolish Club Media. We got basically a little bit of a bye week here. It's going to be a little quiet for the Kansas City Chiefs, but we'll still have plenty of shows coming your way. Beach season with Rocky and Kramer coming your way later this week. Show BK will be back. Brian's World. Everything you need to stay caught up as we have this like 2-week ramp up period for the regular season. So follow Rocky on Twitter at Rocky Magaña. I'm Steven Serda. You can follow me there. We will talk to you guys on Monday as we start the countdown to the 2025 regular season for the Kansas City Chiefs.